You're listening to the Mind Your Business podcast, episode number 9. Today's episode is called The Launch Aftermath. This episode includes all the wins, losses, breakthroughs, and breakdowns of my latest product launch, what we learned, and how we can take that information and apply it to the next one. Stay tuned. Hi, I'm James Wedmore, and I've built a 7-figure internet business that offers the financial freedom to do what I want, when I want. And I'm the first to say that hard work and hustle are not essential ingredients for your success. So, how do you build a thriving business from the inside out? This is the Mind Your Business podcast, featuring myself and co-host Phoebe Mroczek. Well, hello, everybody. Welcome back. I am your host, James Wedmore.
And I'm your co-host, Phoebe Mroczek.
And this is the Mind Your Business podcast. And today's episode is an exciting one. We're calling it The Launch Aftermath. One of the best things that you can do is when you finish a project, a promotion, a launch, a whatever, is to take the time to assess the damage, look at the numbers, see what worked, what didn't. Because what we're going to share with you is how we did that and the lessons we learned, because that's where you find the space to grow. When you can really take that time instead of rushing into the next project or, I got to do this now, I got to do that, is like actually create the space where you can be like, okay, what worked, what didn't, why? And then use that data and information to inform you for your next promotion, product, etc. is just so beneficial. So we're kind of doing that publicly here today. So we've done a launch. I think the last episode, we were like gearing up for a launch. Do you remember that?
Yep.
We've actually taken a little bit of a break in recording episodes. So we have to like think back to like, what were we saying on that episode? But here we are. We've done a product launch. We're going to talk about it today. I've already done what we call an unpacking with my team, like where we look at all the numbers, what worked, what didn't. And then we're kind of just sharing that here with you today.
Well, and one thing that I think is really important is to do it immediately after the launch because everything's fresh, and also to something that we do is to share it with the team because all of those numbers are great if you know them, but if your team is aware of them, then we'll know how to improve in the future. So I think it's also awesome that we're sharing it with everybody exactly how we do it.
Yeah. So to dive right into this, the first thing I do want to say is that, oh boy, out of like 4 or 5 bigger launches that we did even just in 2015, this was, I'm going to stamp the JW stamp of approval. This was the best launch we've ever done. Now that's a big thing to say for a lot of reasons. And that's a really important, reason why we're doing this episode here. But however, I will say it is not the biggest financial result that we've seen from a launch. So for me, I'm not always looking, well, where's the most money or where's the biggest profit margin or blah, blah, blah. But a lot of other reasons really made this the best launch ever. So we're going to go into that and I'll tell you why in a moment. But first, let's go ahead and share what we actually did do financially on the launch. So do you remember what our financial goals are that we set?
Okay, so the low goal or the good goal was 250 because that's what you had done last year. And then the middle of the range was 400. And I believe the hairy scary was 600. I think that's right.
At this point in time, because it's been some time, I don't remember. And we have it written down somewhere. But I do remember that when we found that middle of the road, 400 became like the good benchmark. And the team really pushed me to make that the goal. I was really happy if we just did 300. And we ended up at just over 333,000 in total revenue. And so, I'll just come out and say it is like, we did not hit the financial goal that we set. We hit the wimpy goal, the good goal, but we didn't get to the second one. And for me, it really isn't a breakdown. It isn't an issue, but we are going to actually use this as an opportunity to talk about what was missing that had us miss our mark, not by a lot, by a little. So we're going to talk about that today, which I think is really, really important. And then, of course, some of the things that worked and didn't work and just the takeaways. Like, again, it's really important to say, like, well, knowing all of this, what now? How do we take this information and move forward with it? Brene Brown talks about the concept of in the arena. Being in a launch is playing the game. And being on the field or in the arena, getting beat up and bloody, as she kind of talks about. And that's the only way that you really experience or create knowledge, wisdom, and discover those lessons. And that's one of the reasons why we love launches so much is like, yeah, it's intense and they're like 12-hour days and there's a lot of stuff like flying in the air, but you learn so much. It shines lights on the weak points. It allows your superstar players to shine. Opportunities are discovered, weaknesses are discovered, and you just always come out the other end such a better person, everyone involved, and such a better business.
Well, and also no two launches are the same. So in one experience, you might have had what you thought was the best launch ever, but because it was the best monetary launch ever, or, and this one is very different. And I think it's important that, we're not just saying it was the best launch ever because we're on a podcast now and, we can unpack all these things, but I think it will be good for all the listeners to really understand, why it was the best launch and how we actually go about doing this, the unpacking. So I'm excited to get into it.
Yeah, the real reason why it was for me, I mean, I can't speak for yourself, but for me it was the best launch ever was because it was really, I don't want to use the word effortless, but it was painless. It was fun. It was an experience for me of the team really stepping up, working really well together. And that was a lot of what we created. We did the episode before this on like planning a launch and working with a team and getting people on board with what your vision is and what your launch is about. And I really saw that happen. And this year, my theme for 2015 has really been about things of the internal, of getting a workability within your team, communication within a team, and all of that. And I saw that just being executed beautifully. And people just came together. We're like, I wasn't the bottleneck. Not everything had to come by me because, you're sitting there working on Facebook ads, getting copy from someone else and working with Melissa to get something out. And, it was amazing. It was incredible. So when I said that is my standard, is like, that's what I wanted to create. We definitely got that. And it didn't matter that, okay, one of our bigger goals wasn't met because the lessons that came from it, which we'll share in a moment, we'll make sure that doesn't happen again. And I think that's really important. So what I want you to do is remember we asked everybody on the team, what do you want to get out of your experience in this launch? So what did you say to that? So
I had two. My first goal was I really wanted this to be stress-free. I know, you had kind of just mentioned that it wasn't necessarily effortless, but painless. And for me personally, it was stress-free. I felt like there were just so many moments where I did not feel rushed. I felt like everything was under control because everyone had autonomy over their own projects. And so for me, that was really important. The other thing was to be a leader. And I can't remember in what aspect I said or if that was just a general thing, but I also felt like that was met. And I don't know, you might disagree with this, but as far as like the Facebook ads, so I was really in charge of the Facebook ads and the upsells. And it was just, I think it was the planning really just that allowed all of us to kind of come together, and I knew exactly what I had to accomplish and I was able to do that. And for me, the stress-free and the leadership, mission accomplished. I was really happy. And I mean, painless, I feel like doesn't even really explain it because it was just it was such a positive, exciting experience the whole way through.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's why it was the best launch ever right there, is because I think you could ask everybody on our team and they'd all have their own experience of it, but it comes down to like, they love being a part of it. We had another member of our team who was relatively new and she took on this whole Instagram promotional project and like ran that herself. And like the team even walked away giving her like the MVP of the day award, and it was just like from that aspect, like it was so exciting. And it was so awesome to see people work. And then, we still did very well. But I wanted to look at the numbers. So first of all, you did do an incredible job because the two things you were in charge of are actually two of the things that are our biggest wins. Facebook ads was used very strategically. Like we really should do an episode on just all the stuff we did with Facebook ads because it was like hands down the most dynamic, dense, intricate Facebook ad strategy we've ever deployed. And we created 20,100 and new subscribers into the launch, but also onto my email list from that. And that's like 99% Facebook ads. That's friggin' huge. 20,000 new people in what? 2 weeks, 2.5, 3 weeks tops? That's awesome. So that was a huge win, and that was Facebook ads. Big fan of the Facebook ads and Facebook video ads, something that I'm a big fan of as well, obviously. And so I want to take a look at this number, which is, we did $333,000. So the fascinating thing is, and it's really deserving of its own episode, is like out of context, like there's this great book, Predictably Irrational. Have you read that yet?
Yeah.
By Dan Ariely. Fantastic book. And it talks about this concept of price relativity. And I kind of feel like it's the same thing here, where it's like goal relativity, where like somebody would be like, 333,000, that's freaking amazing. That's life changing. And some people would be like, are you kidding? You're a loser, you know? So it's like, it's so relative to everything. And I've had coaching clients of mine and students of mine have the same launch goal result, like the same number, not the goal, the financial result. Each hit at like 100,000. And for someone, it was a total breakdown. And for someone else, it was like life changing. So there's a lot of that to keep in mind. We've had episodes on goal setting, and we'll probably have more on goal setting because it's just such a huge piece. Like, is that 333,000 a good thing or a bad thing? And it's like, well, what if it's neither? What if it just is? And then what we can do is look further at some of the numbers. And so what we discovered, and you guys, if you had a calculator in front of you, could have actually done this math yourself, is that if we had 20,000 people go through this launch, there's an interesting metric that we can look at called earnings per lead, or earnings per registrant, or earnings per subscriber, which means how much was each subscriber worth to you? Because there is, in some sense, a direct correlation with the amount of people that go through your launch promotion experience and the amount of revenue, right? So like if you had 10 people go through your launch, you're going to make a certain amount of money. But if you could get 10,000 people go through, chances are you're going to make more money, right? So there is a correlation there. And so our EPL, or earnings per lead, came out to $16.52 per lead. And I looked at that and I was like, that's actually pretty low. I wouldn't say it's bad, but it's nothing to like put on the fridge at home and say, you know, like, look at what I did, Mom. So when I looked at that number, I was like, okay, so what can we learn? And a lot of things came up on the launch that are really beneficial to us moving forward. And the first thing is the offer itself. So for any of you out there who are offering coaching, digital products, online training, courses, membership sites, etc., the offer is crucial. And if it's not working, if you're not getting a high earnings, it doesn't come down to like your total launch number, but really what is your earnings per lead, right? Because you can always scale and grow and get more people in your launch the next time around. But if that EPL is low, you really want to look at your offer. So what exactly is the offer? The offer is, at the core level, it's what the promise is and how much it's going to cost to fulfill on that promise. So like, I promise that this program will show you how to lose 10 pounds in 10 weeks or something like that, right? Like that's your offer, and what is included with that, and what is the experience of it, all of that creates your offer. And I believe the offer just needed some work, and we won't go into all of that, but really looking at like, what is the big promise that you're offering? What is the outcome that is expected from going through your program, your coaching, your service, etc.? And what are they really paying for? And then the second piece that I really think is a big takeaway for us is pricing. And ultimately, not just getting better at getting clear on what our offer is, and not just working on the price, but raising the price. And I think that is the biggest takeaway. And we're going to do an entire episode coming up, because this is just so important, on raising your prices. This is for our launch 48-hour film school, and we did not mention that already, but the price at the standard level is just $297. And everybody, including Phoebe, like before we went into it, by the way, I made everybody go through the product. So you went through it, right? And everyone's like, okay, why are you selling this at $297? And here's the answer. Here's the reason why. Because I originally created this product 2 years ago, and a lot happens in 2 years. And 2 years ago, I wasn't confident enough or certain enough or whatever enough to have a higher price tag. So I charged $297. And I wanted to go into this launch saying, let's change as little as possible. Let's just repeat it and take it, the quality of the content, the promotional efforts, to a whole nother level. So here we are with a product that had a price tag that's 2 years old, and immediately I was like, wow, this should have been much higher. And ironically, of course, we offered training calls for all our members. The number one thing they said is like, it's like incredible how much you've over delivered in this program. And it's like, you always want to over deliver, but when people are like whoa, like I didn't even expect this type of level of over delivery. I just thought we were talking about video, and all of a sudden you're talking about like life and business and mindset and marketing strategy and funnels and selling, all this type of stuff. You're like, yeah, maybe $300 was a little too cheap.
You would have over delivered at $397 or $497. It's still that same level. When we all went through it, we were like, this is just crazy what you're charging for this. Yeah. So when we look at like going through the numbers, I think there was 676 customers. And when we're looking at 333,000 and 676 new members, that is just crazy, because any other launch, 676 is like mind blowing. So,
but let's just get like really present to that number. I'm glad you brought that up. 676 people took out their credit cards or logged into PayPal and sent us money and invested in this program. That's a lot of people in like 2 to 3 weeks. And there's a lot of people, and we'll talk about this on another episode of raising your prices, because I think we need to go way deeper on it. But like a lot of people will tell you it's the same effort in selling and marketing a $100 to $200, $300 product, and it is a $1,000, $2,000, et cetera type product. And in my experience, it is so accurate. And so we started playing around with the number, and I'm going to do a rough calculation right now. And raising the price, so we had 2 tiers. Okay. So we had 2 tiers where it was like $1,000 level, but it was limited to 200 people. And then the $297. And we started playing around with like, well, what if we would have raised the price from $297 to $497, and putting a $200 price increase on the product equates to like $50,000, $70,000, $80,000 in additional revenue. It's like, it's unfreaking believable. And we were kind of playing with that number. It's like, wow. And you don't need as many people. And there are a lot of people that will tell you like they were sold whether the price was $200, $300, $500, or $1,000. And it's so fascinating. So like, we don't want to go too much deeper here today on this, but like the big takeaway there on the lesson. So it's like, there's nothing ever wrong. Like it's not the number we got isn't wrong. It's not bad. It's just like, look at the missed opportunities we have here. And with the quality of the level of quality and integrity that we put into our programs and stuff, I'm like, I have no problem raising the price today. I think I did 2.5 years ago. Like that's just all mindset stuff right there. But also getting clear on your offer. And I think that's so important. And we should probably have an episode on that. But here's what we want to do for the remainder of the episode. Right. So we talked about the importance of having a clear offer, really challenging people and encouraging people to raise your price. But we want to walk you through some of the wins, because it's not all black or white. It's not like this is crap or this is awesome. It's good and the bads or whatever. But the wins and stuff are really important here. So we're going to go through here. And the first thing is why we called this thing the greatest launch ever, the best launch that I've had, is because of what a smooth experience it was. It was like just like, a well-oiled machine of great people. And a few things attributed to that. So the first thing was, and we talked about this in the previous episode, was that we had a core group of 4 of us responsible for projects. Like they took on this ownership of specific things, right? So I don't know, Phoebe, I'd love to hear like your experience of doing that, being on the other end of that. Yeah,
I think when we first divided out the projects, it was more like, who's going to take responsibility for this? Okay. And some of them were very clear cut, of course, like I'm going to do the Facebook ads. But when it actually came down to like the upsells, this was something, for me that I didn't know if I was going to be able to do I didn't really know what that entailed. But when I got into it, I loved it. And I loved that it was either, when we have our projects, it's like it's done or it's not. And so like during our morning meetings, it's like, okay, where are we on this? And it was just so clear cut on everything that was like, okay, have I done it? No, but what's the status? And it was one person reporting to the entire team. So where was I on the upsells? I had these videos recorded. I hadn't put it into the system yet, or I had, and what I needed. And so it didn't necessarily mean that I had to do all the work, which I think is really important. It was that because we do have a team of other people who are able to still help us out with it, but I was the one responsible. And so I loved it. I thought it very much attributed to the smooth experience, because I didn't have to worry about anyone else's stuff or how it was going to come together. I knew that it was going to. And so that was really helpful. I think something important, or a factor that I have fostered in our team that I think is working, is creating the distinction between the responsibility of something versus the doing of it, which is like really huge. Like talked about a little bit, but
Phoebe is responsible for a lot of stuff, but not only have I brought on other people to work directly under her, like she has a virtual assistant, but she also has access to the rest of my team. So, if she needs a graphic made up or she needs a PDF created, she knows how to get access to that type of stuff. And I think that's really cool as well because, it puts her more in a leadership role where she gets to challenge herself and, work with other people and make sure she's hitting deadlines and stuff versus just being like a worker bee. And that's not really who I need more of. And for anybody who's hearing this, be like, well, yeah, easy for you to say, like, I can't afford that type of stuff. Like, we're talking like virtual assistants, like Princess Pellegrino, yes, that's her name, is like $3 to $4 an hour. And to be able to even just work for Phoebe for 10 hours a week, I know has been really beneficial. So yeah, people had responsibility. And like you were saying, so you didn't even know how to do the upsells when you started,
right?
Is what you're saying, but you were responsible for that.
Right. And so I was responsible for figuring it out. And also not just, Princess and our VAs and all of that, but just the core team of the four of us. I felt very comfortable when Melissa would call me and say, hey, can I get your eyes on this? I'm like, yeah, of course, because I knew that she had a deadline and we all knew what each other's deadlines were.
Yeah.
So when Chelsea needed help with something, or I could help Chelsea with something, it was really easy for me to either ask her opinion or for her to get my opinions. I loved that. So the next part that I personally really liked, because this is something that I haven't been so much around for being overseas, and now I'm in California, so I can be. But when we had the actual team meeting here and we were all in the office, I thought that was something, as I said, I haven't experienced, and I loved being here. And I know that we had Skyped Melissa in to our conversation, but just having all of us actually here for the planning. And then when we were actually doing, for example, like the Facebook ads, and it wasn't that hard for me. Whereas like normally I would have to call you or get a hold of somebody. I could just walk in the other room and get somebody's feedback. And I loved that. For me, I thought that was probably the best part about the launch.
Yeah. So like there's this whole thing since like the birth of businesses on the internet of working virtually from a coffee shop and virtual assistants and stuff. And listen, I'm the king of talking about that, but there has to be something that is said about what was created when we were all here in an environment together. And it's tough. It's really tough because I think something that's important to me is my team has the freedom to work when they want, where they want, and all that stuff. But when you're doing something like a launch and you don't have days, you have like minutes and hours, and things happen and change in real time. Like, do you remember there were times when we were like stopping what we were doing to like have a meeting to make a big decision as a group? And
right.
Like, you don't have that luxury when someone's eating dinner on the East Coast while someone else is at lunch and someone else is asleep on the other side of the world. And when we could just be like, okay, real quick, guys, we were thinking about doing this or this. Here's our case for this. Here's our case for that. What do you guys think?
Well, I think a really good example of that was the Instagram challenge, because we had Jilly in the office who was in charge of it. And all of a sudden it was like, all right, let's stop what we're doing. Or at 2:30, we're all going to sit down and talk about this, bring your ideas to the table. And then we were just all here and we were able to kind of see what that was like. Then you started recording the videos right away and we were all kind of in the videos and part of the videos. And you wouldn't get that in any other situation. So for me, looking at that, that's definitely something, in the future that I would replicate, because that really gave us not just, a sense of like camaraderie and, teamwork, but just showing up for it, I thought was really important.
And I think the lesson at the end of the day, because I know, again, I can already hear the objections of like, okay, I don't have an office, or I only have one virtual assistant and they're, on the other side of the country or the other side of the world. So what does this have to do with me? Am I supposed to go out and get an office space now? No, I actually think it has nothing to do with any of that type of stuff. First of all we're doing is sharing what's worked for us. And maybe just secretly, I've always wanted an office and have a team working, side by side with us. But at the end of the day, what it does mean for everybody is that your environment affects everything: communication, productivity, attitude, all of that. And whether that's a virtual environment or a local environment or whatever, hands down, it's a fact that it's going to affect everything, the inner workings of your team, the productivity, all that stuff. And guess what? If you're the boss, if you're the business owner, if you're the entrepreneur, the CEO, you're responsible for that environment. You can't outsource the environment. You can't ignore it. It all plays a vital role. And it's so important. And, you know, that's a good thing because you get to control that. You get to control how the communication is, why people, you know, do people know what they're doing and do they know why they're doing it and when it's due by and what they're supposed to do with it and all that. So here is an example of Phoebe taking on a responsibility for something that she said yes to, showed up for, and had no idea what it was. Well, I've never done this before. But that's like, that doesn't matter because you know where to go to get information on it. And, you know, you can fill in the pieces and get others to help you with it. And sure enough, it was done. Point was, I wasn't responsible for it. It worked out. But the environment piece is so key. That's why companies write books and hire really expensive consultants about the concept of company culture. It's the same freaking thing. Why is that so important? Why is that something that people continue to talk about in organizations, company culture? It's the same thing with even a group of two people.
Well, I think especially now, as you were saying, with, you know, in this day and age with virtual assistants, it's so easy just to kind of ship off your work to a VA in the Philippines or wherever. But what is that relationship like? You know, what community are you fostering? And I would really, you know, challenge you to take a look at your business and what, you know, the way that you are handling and speaking to, or are you doing video Skypes or something? You know, what kind of company are you trying to create? And so not just necessarily, you know, being in person, but how can you make, you know, really inspire and motivate your people to step up? And so there's also that environment as well.
Absolutely. And that's just so huge. So again, this kind of blends into communication, which is just a huge piece, but it really is like the environment, you know, creates a place where communication is available. And I just wanted to touch upon this for just a moment, that the communication was there, the expectations were there. And I think it started with people taking responsibility for projects, being able to have a safe environment where people could ask for help, get input, and come to me if they didn't know anything. Like, there wasn't much, or if not anything, that was being done that I didn't personally know how to do myself, but I wasn't about to go do a launch of just like, I'm going to do it all and you just stand there and watch me do it. And so a lot of it was like, here's what I want, you know, even at the basis essence of like, here's what I kind of want. Can you take this on? You know, are you up for this? So obviously in a physical environment, the communication was easy because we had just the proximity of us. But what else did we do? Did we do our daily calls?
Yep. So the other thing about the communication piece is when we had originally set out for the planning meeting, you had asked the question, in order to achieve these goals, what needed to be in place? And communication was the biggest one. And I think the communication and the calendar was also a huge piece. Just so I think we had spoken about that I'm a very visual person. I like to see everything laid out. But the communication piece with us speaking every day was huge, you know, so everyone knew who was working on what was happening, and what the status was. And I don't recall any situations where there were, you know, any breakdowns in communication.
No, not at all. And we stole this from the Scrum model, a great book, The Art of Doing Twice the Work in Half the Time by Jeff Sutherland, where he talks about the Scrum methodology of project management or working on a project with a team, where we did these daily Scrum calls. We don't call them Scrum because Melissa doesn't like that word, so she calls them crew meetings. But while we had the team here in the office, we'd have the first thing we do in the morning, every morning at the exact same time, is go around the room and everyone present, what did they do yesterday? What is their plan for today? What are they working on today? And what's been getting in the way? And that third question is really important because it's not like people would start answering like, oh, well, you know, my mom called me, you know, or like, oh, I had to do laundry or something. And then we went out to dinner. It's like, no, what's getting in the way in terms of the process and communication within the team? And some stuff shows up and you're like, okay, how do we work through that? And when we weren't here in person, because I think we were only here in person for like 5 days.
Yeah.
And then we'd continue that via phone chat, which was great. So yeah, that's the power of having that communication.
And then it's up to the other group members to kind of relieve that person of those challenges. So I know with RMI, when we were doing our Scrum calls, one of the biggest things that came up in one meeting when we were doing the Scrum calls was the time zones was getting in the way, and that we couldn't seem to coordinate things at the right time. And so easy, you know, that was an easy fix, but that was up to me to like come to a conclusion. Okay, well then, you know, something needs to change here. So, you know, I think that would be an example. I don't know. I can't really recall any things that like really got in our way, but
I don't remember. No, nothing. Like that's why it was so great. And yeah, I think everyone being in person really helped tremendously. Yeah,
definitely. So the next one that I found really helpful was we had a lot of process templates, and this is something that James, I know that you are a big fan of and have kind of instilled this in me when I work with RMI and stuff, is to have templates available to the team so that we're not, you know, duplicating any work. So when we have, for example, I think the best thing that we had during this launch was the link resources page, which we just kept inside. Melissa was in charge of that inside of Basecamp, and it just had every single link that we could possibly need in there. And so that was helpful. Everyone could go there and know exactly where it was.
Yeah. So to expand upon what Phoebe's saying is basically it was like this magic page that everything was there. So like, I mean, think of all the, you know, when you ask that question, what's getting in the way? What's getting in the way? Well, a lot of times it's like you're off to go work on a project, you know, where you're getting the handoff from something else. Like maybe you're supposed to proofread a page or double check something. And you're like, well, what's the link for this? And, you know, or what's the login info, or what lead page are we using? And all of that was kept there. So everyone knew what were the links to the video series, what was the link to the opt-in, the thank you page, what campaign we were working on, the registration webinars, the dates. Everybody knew everything. And if they didn't, they just go to this like universal, omniscient, all-knowing page, which just had everything, including like what tags we use in Infusionsoft to like label customers and subscribers. And it's just like, go to the page, you know, and everything's there, which I think is so important. Well, so important.
And also moving forward with the next launch, something that I am really adamant about is making sure that the next one is a turnkey system. So now we have all these templates, we have all of these lead pages that the next time we launch, you know, it's just a matter of like duplicating it, changing the dates, you know, and all of them, all the information is exactly the same. So it makes everything, you know, from here on out really easy.
Yeah. And expanding on the process templates as well is, you know, I'm just such a big fan of talking about this as much as I can, is we use a resource that I know Michael Hyatt recommends on his podcast called sweetprocess.com. And the analogy that we use is I basically, like, if anyone's ever here built Legos before, I love Legos, is a Lego instruction manual is like you turn the page and it's like, put on 2 bricks, turn the page, and it's like very visual and it's very simple so that a young child could do it. And we've approached our business with anything that takes more than like, you know, like a 5th grade knowledge, maybe not even that, is how do we create the Lego instruction manual for that? So how do you create the Lego instruction manual for uploading a video or creating a new course or, you know, generating a webinar registration page? And we haven't done all of them. You know, there's still so many we could make, but we started with the things that are the most common and that take the most time and have the most breakdowns and issues and problems. And we've just detailed them out into I remember doing them, like just taking a week of my life and just step by step by step so that anybody could come in and do this. And that is so, so beneficial. How can you create the instruction manual for your business?
And that was you have one that's the ultimate webinar sequence or something. And that has been so helpful across the board. And, you know, not just for this launch, but in other aspects. You know, everyone knows, you know, Princess knows she can just log into Sweet Process and have a look at everything that we need. And it's so easy.
And it's called the Ultimate because it shows you how to create a lead page, a GoToWebinar event, how to create the campaign with the tags and all that stuff with a follow-up sequence in Infusionsoft, the thank you page, how to create a redirect, and like 4 or 5 other things. And then the last process, of course, is then checking that it all worked. And like a step-by-step, I mean, that's a huge piece that I want to give people, is like putting a piece in your process to double check that whatever you had someone on your team create actually works. So they actually submit a test dummy email and they have to like check like 7 things. Was there a tag applied? Does it redirect to a thank you page? Are they added to GoToWebinar? Does this happen? Did they get the thank you email? All these things. And then it's like, congratulations, you did it, you know, and that's just so, so important. So listen, we've talked a lot here today because doing a big launch is an opportunity to learn a lot about yourself, your business, your team, your marketing, your branding, all of that stuff. And we've like only scratched the surface. But so far we've talked about a lot of great things. Overall, in my book, This launch was a massive win. Even though we didn't hit our middle of the road goal, it was still like very financially successful, built the list by over 20,000 new awesome people. And we learned some incredible lessons about honing in your offer and raising your prices. But also like looking at why internally it was so effective. We talked about things like creating projects of people responsible, creating a team where people were responsible for all the different components. We did have a great environment, which included us working in person, which was really fun. We flew everybody out for that. We had process maps, templates, calendars, and cheat sheets in place so that the communication was just top notch. But there are a few other things I want to leave you with that I think also worked that for our, more marketing oriented people are going to really geek out on. And the first thing is that the software that we used to run 90% of the stuff that we did was pretty amazing. And that's, most of you guys might have heard of Kajabi, but this is actually their newest software that they call very creatively the new Kajabi. And
it's original.
It's original. I mean, here's this like one word, Kajabi, very unique name, but I guess they couldn't think of any other than just new. But listen, I love the guys over at Kajabi. I've been to their headquarters, which is only like 20, 30 minutes away from me, several times. And they were really nice to add me as a beta user to the new Kajabi. And we used it to run our entire launch. Now, listen, there's no affiliate thing. I don't have a link. I don't have anything for you. I don't even, at the moment of this, I know that the doors are closed, but hopefully eventually they will open back up. They just finished like a beta round promotion. But I'm just going to say I absolutely loved Kajabi because for the first time I got an experience of everything working together. So Kajabi hosted our courses. It created upsells, checkout pages, sales pages, even our affiliate center, as well as like management of the members. I mean, it was unbelievable.
And also cross-selling across,
Yes.
If you have different, we have lots of different products, not just 48 Hour Film School. Mm-hmm. So I know that was
so
a
we
big
looked
one
in
too.
here just like before this episode to look at like what else, was working and stuff like this. And we noticed that people have gone through 48 Hour Film School and then they have what's called a course library. And it's like, oh, here's the other courses James offers. And they've gone and invested in those programs as well. So and the beautiful thing about it is once their credit card information, their username's already in there, it's kind of like buying on Amazon where, you just push a button and it goes in. I love it. So using Kajabi was fantastic. Do you need to drop everything and switch to Kajabi? No. If you got something that works, I like to say if it ain't broke, why fix it? But if you're looking for a better solution, I would look into the new Kajabi. Now, the reason I make sure to say that it is the new Kajabi is that there is what they now call classic Kajabi, and it's very different. It is very, very, very different. So don't compare them. Don't say, oh, I didn't like the old Kajabi, so the new one ain't good either. And that's just not true. Because I was actually on the old one and I didn't like it that much. I love this version of it. Okay.
And that team was awesome. I know they worked with us a lot throughout the launch and they were amazing.
Super supportive.
Yep.
Definitely. Now, the next thing is because we got to use Kajabi's system and they had an affiliate center built in, I was like, I've never seen an affiliate system so simple and easy to use. So we're like, let's make this an affiliate launch. And we brought on affiliates. And yes, we should probably do an entire series of episodes on how to recruit affiliates, how to do an affiliate launch and all that type of stuff, because there's so much value and insight there. But I know that Phoebe, even working on our team, decided like, well, I have my own list and, I want to promote for this. So I would like to have Phoebe share for a moment, like what your experience was of being an affiliate, because we had like in very short notice, had over 50 affiliates promote, sending thousands upon thousands of clicks and doing really well in sales with that. So
as one of the affiliates, to be honest with you, I haven't really affiliated for many people. So I do have my list and to actually be part of it, I think that this was one of the things that really, worked for, obviously I'm on one side of it where inside the business, but also for me personally, it was a really fun opportunity. And I think one of the things that worked really well, and maybe some of the other affiliates would agree, is this element of gamification. When we had all of the emails that James was sending out, it was like, oh, who's in the lead and who's driving how many clicks? And I can say I was at the top of that for a little while.
That's why you liked it.
Exactly. I was winning. And then I slowly slid down. But it was a really fun process. And as you said, the Kajabi system just makes it so easy. So you know exactly how many clicks you're getting, how many people are actually buying. And I loved it. I thought it was really fun. And just the emails, it felt really like, a little bit competitive, but in a fun, joking way.
Yeah. Definitely. So, doing a promotion and attracting affiliate and getting them to drive traffic, support you, promote you is huge. It's a whole nother level. It's a whole nother dynamic. It's like running 2 launches at once. When you have an offer that's great and you've done the launch at least once yourself, it's definitely something I encourage you to do. And so we're a big thumbs up on what worked was affiliates. Now, the other thing was that upsells, is that Kajabi allowed us the opportunity to have upsells. So we were like, well, let's make sure we throw an upsell in there. And so Phoebe, you were actually in charge of the upsells, and we looked at the results, and I think we did extremely well with our upsell. If you want to kind of walk us through what worked with that.
So yeah, of course. In one of the upsells, we were selling video ROI at a discounted half off, and that converted at 20% of the people took us up on that.
And that's pretty good. Like if you can hit a 20% on your upsell, that's awesome. If you're doing higher than that, you're like a rock star. So that was, we were really happy with that.
The second one that we did was an upsell for another course. So with the VIP package, we upsold to another course, the outsourcing your videos. And that was a 26.5% conversion rate, which is really good.
Yeah. So as soon as I saw we hit 20% or more with the upsell, I was pretty happy with that. So, you look at that, you realize that that's just extra revenue that's sitting on the table.
Right.
That is not being collected if you're not doing an upsell. And obviously there's a right way and a wrong way to do upsells, and it's not really the intention of this call to go deep into that topic either. But looking at that as an opportunity to generate extra revenue is definitely there. Now, one thing else we did, which isn't exactly an upsell, but we call a back-end offer, is that we created something where people had an opportunity to take this virtual training and come join us live. So I offered a $1,000 one-day live event for up to 10 people, and it was like super easy to fill that. Didn't take any effort at all. And so there's like an extra $10,000 just for a day, which was fantastic. We've actually already had the one day. People came in and we got to make videos with them. I had a videographer come out, and we did like training, coaching, and stuff like that. But then you're also left with getting testimonials from that, feedback from people in real life. And I just think adding that live component is huge. It's just massive. Yeah. There was just so many things that worked.
Well, in the upsells I'm looking at our data right now, and that's almost $15,000 just in the upsells. The back end offer is another 10, an extra $25,000 that we didn't have worked out originally, or in the original offer, which is pretty awesome.
It is. It was really great. So that's pretty much it for this episode. The biggest thing is, just to recap, is what I took away as the big lessons from this is getting really good at your offer. And that's just having a clear, simple promise that solves a clear, simple problem that your ideal audience, your ideal customer has. And the other thing is, I want to encourage everybody to be open and willing to increase your prices and to really understand the true value that you offer in your coaching, your software, your programs, or whatever your product is, to not sell yourself short. Okay. And then, there's just so many things that went well internally to allow us to have a smooth experience, a great sense of teamwork and camaraderie, so that I wasn't feeling like the bottleneck that had to do it all. And I know that's what most entrepreneurs face, because they've got this perfectionist syndrome. They've got this feeling of, I got to do it all. I got to hustle and all that type of stuff. So, that was really a lesson in me in learning how to let go and trust others much more. It turned out great.
So that's it for this episode. Thank you so much for listening. And if you haven't already, make sure to subscribe to us on iTunes, and we will see you on the next episode.
Take care, everyone. Are you frustrated that no matter how hard you hustle, no matter how much you get done in a day, you still feel like you have little results to show for it? Do you feel like you're doing everything right, but there's still something missing? Well, what if there was an easier way? What if your business could be fun, effortless, and profitable? Phoebe and I have put together a free audio MP3 for you, compiling the 77 business affirmations for creating success from the inside out. And we want to give it to you absolutely free. This is your chance to rewire your brain for bigger results in your life and your business. To get instant access absolutely free, simply visit 77affirmations.com. That's the number 77affirmations.com.